Hi, everyone. Welcome to a really exciting webinar. My name is Doug Grant. For those of you that are on, new nutritionist, organic chemist, and formulator for optimal health systems. And we're going to go through some phenomenal new research today. And as you're coming on, if you would, just type your name in the question and answer section and just say, hi, this is Beverly from wherever, like Minnesota, wherever it's at. So we can just see that you're on there and you're able to ask questions and that it's working okay. So if you would just go into the question and answer and let us know who you are. Thank you, Joanne, calling from Phoenix. All right. Hey, Dr. Colby from Idaho. Thanks for being with us. And so again, as you're coming on, thanks for joining us. Just go into the Q&A, the question and answer on your Zoom, and just let me know where you're coming in from. So Indiana, hi, welcome. North Carolina, thanks for being with us. Hey, Donald from Atlanta, appreciate you being there. Katie, thanks for being there from Utah. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're going to give it just a few seconds, and then we're going to start this webinar. This is one that I'm very excited to go over with you. It's probably the most asked question that I get as a nutritionist anywhere we go in the world is, what about the latest diet? What do you think about this? Or I'm on the paleo diet, or I'm on the intermittent fasting, and how healthy really is it? And what is the truth behind it? And there's a lot of eating plans that companies are based on. So you get a lot of hype and you wonder what's truth and what isn't. And so we're going to be going through that, and also why so many different eating plans. For some people, they get great results. Like you can take any eating plan or diet out there today, and you can find someone that will swear by it, that had the best results in the world. We're going to talk about that a little bit as to why. So super excited about sharing that message with you today. And then at the end, we're going to give you some really cool things that are coming up that you'd want to take advantage of to help take your knowledge to another level. So what is the truth about all the diet choices out there today? And we're going to go through that. And what I want to share with you, kind of the first little special, is that at the end of the webinar, I'm going to give you a QR code, and you'll be able to click that QR code. And just for being on the webinar today, you're going to be able to, without any cost or anything to you, get a free bottle of Digestamil in the pouch. It is our #1 formula that we've sold and made all around the world for over 30 years. And it's going to be just our thank you for being on here today and sticking with it. So I carry my pouch with me everywhere we go. And in fact, I'm doing this webinar today from Universal Studios in California. Our management team has been here to go through the goals and set all of the what we call frameworks in place for the rest of the year. And it was a really great experience. And so they came today for a few hours to just kind of finish up our great meetings. And I broke away from them to come in and do this webinar. So real excited to come to you from California, from Universal Studios, which is really, I really see more and more the importance of eating healthy and making right choices. So out of all the eating plans in the world, which one truly is the best for optimal health? Really, which one? And we're going to go through, and I'm going to give you, based on the research, what I feel is the #1 best eating plan or diet for optimal health. And we're going to go through each one and talk about them a little bit. Things from the carnivore diet to keto to Atkins diet to paleo diet. Being able to look at Mediterranean diets, plant-based diets, intermittent fasting, we're going to talk about in quite detail. Flexitarian might be new to some of you, the name flexitarian eating plans, the low-fat eating plans, and even vegan. So let's just jump right into it. And really, to jump into the eating plans, we have to back it up. We have to go back a little bit to the beginning, because what I want to have happen from this webinar today is not only to go over here are the different diets, the fads, and that, and what to look for, but I want to give you a framework. I want to back up and give you a framework so that you're going to be able to determine whether a diet is a fad diet, something you should stay away from, or something that you would want to do. So nutrition First of all, why do we care about which diet we're on? Why is it important to care about our nutrition? And why is it important to know, what macronutrients are, what carbs, proteins, and fats are, and like how much we should eat of them? Why does it matter? Why don't we just eat whatever and, won't it all work out in the end? And why is it important also to know how to read labels, to look at labels, say, hey, what's in this food? We're going to talk about those things right now before we get into each of the eating plans, because it'll help you, as I mentioned, for you to determine which eating plan is best for you, which diet. So why is it important to care about your nutrition? Do you know what the leading fatal disease in the world is? And out of everything for men, women, all around the world, the number one leading disease is heart disease. So these diseases are most common. They're responsible for a third of all deaths globally. Cancers are in second, causing almost 1 in 5 deaths. And then infectious diseases are next, which are 1 in 7. Now, we're not just talking about deaths. We're also talking about lowering the quality of life before people die. So it's about now. It's about you being able to live and being more present and having energy and health, plus also being able to live a long time. And what will cause us to not live a long, what's going to take our life. And out of those things, all of them, the number one cause of heart disease, the number one cause of cancer, the number one cause of things like the high blood pressure and all those is nutrition. Number one. And it was what we eat will determine our health and our longevity more than any other thing. So that's why it's important to know how we should go about picking our foods, how many calories we should eat, and all of those things. It's absolutely the most important thing we can do. So we should do a little bit of research on it. We should get educated on that subject. Now, the bonus reason you should focus on nutrition is learning what to eat and being able to make right decisions consistently about what you consume is the single most important factor. So if you take a look graphically at every single condition today, so the top 10 killers today, the top 10 reasons your health is going to be lowered, or the quality of your life, right? Your lower energy, brain fog, aches and pains. The nutrition, as I mentioned, number one. And the second thing is a lack of exercise. So we know that those things are critical. But if you take a look at the model that's really being promoted today, you have the marketing of bad foods, making them look appealing, right? That for to the kids and to the public, it makes it look like they're healthy or they're fun to eat and they have the bright colors and they claim they're not harmful. You also see a lot of prescription advertisements on TV and that, as if they're not something that is just to help save lives, that they're just kind of an everyday thing. You feel this way, you should be on this drug. Also, nutrition, when it comes to the pharmaceutical model, then what happens is that they actually add chemicals to the processed food that cause you to crave more of those foods. It's like if you had a little bag of Oreos, you're going to eat not just one Oreo, you're going to eat the whole row, right? And why is that? Well, that's because there's chemicals in the food now that override it's called ghrelin and leptin, your cravings in your body, so that your body just say, oh, that's enough sugar, that's enough calories. You actually override those, so your body craves more and more and more. It's a tactic to get you to eat more junk food because of these specific chemicals that are in the food. Now, let's say we have an apple out right now. How many of you are going to eat apple after apple after apple, right? You're going to eat 8, 10 apples. Very few people are going to do that, because within a natural whole food are the chemicals that when you've had enough of the nutrients to sustain life, it's like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm not craving that anymore. I don't have to have the next one, the next one, the next one immediately. If you eat more, it's just because you choose to, versus you have the cravings. And that's how the chemicals that the processed food companies, the pharmaceutical companies are putting into our food, that's how they work. And with exercise isn't recommended. You look at screens more, the phones, the computers, right? Netflix and chill. And most of the supplement companies nowadays are owned by pharmaceutical companies. We just had a giant player in our arena of supplements that was doing personalized nutrition and supplementation that we were very aware of, that got bought out by Bayer. And then they thought, the company, as they got bought out by them, thought, oh, they're going to bring and infuse more money, and we're going to be able to, be able to do personalized nutrition for more and more people. And after they were bought out just last week, Bayer came in and shut them down and said, oh, we're just going to get rid of this division. Paid hundreds of millions of dollars to buy this company to shut it down. So we can see that model. And what it does is it causes you to be out of shape, it causes brain fog, headaches, and pain. So we take over the counter drugs and prescriptions and surgery, and then we get back into that model again of the poor eating choices and the chemicals to override our cravings. What we want is we want to follow an eating plan that gets us more performance, that gets us more energy, that's anti-aging, that gives us more control over our life so that we're not addicted to and we're not held captive to foods. And then it causes ease. It causes the ability just to enjoy and be present. And all of those things add up to peace, right? Performance, energy, anti-aging, control, and ease. So we want more peace in our life. And the way to do that is to follow an eating plan, a diet that takes out the chemicals, that gives us the balance, that raises our level of energy and our metabolic rate so that we can enjoy life and have all of those benefits. So if those things are important to all of you that are watching this, or to those who you love, right? I have a lot of people that say, man, if you don't do it for yourself, what about your kids and your spouse and your friends, that want you to be around, that need you to be around? Whether it's for you or for those that you love, nutrition should be your number one priority with your health program. What you put in your mouth, and it's something we do every single day. Knowing about that, being educated on it is the most important thing. So thank you so much for all of you being here today, that you understand that you're taking time out of your day to be here to listen to me and be a part of Optimal Health Systems. Thank you so much. And for the health professionals, if you came because your health professional asked you to join this, just think about how much they care. And it's not often that you see health professionals that care at the level to say, hey, we want you to go and listen to this webinar so you can learn more about health and nutrition. If your health professional invited you to see this, then that's a health professional you need to stick with, because they truly care about your health and getting to the core of what's needed to reach optimal health. Now, the bonus reason you should focus on nutrition is a lack of confidence in the body is a major contributor to anxiety and depression. Also, a lack of confidence, what you feel about your body. And improvement improves confidence and lowers anxiety, whether that is trying to reduce body fat, lower weight, whatever it might be. Even if you're not at your ultimate level, some of the happiest, most excited people I know are people that are just heading the right way. They still might have 20 pounds, 50 pounds. I have a client that has almost 200 pounds still to go, but they're so excited because they're losing that excess body fat and their weight. They're feeling better every day, and they know it's only going to get better. So it's the direction you're going that's the key. And that's another bonus reason that you should be eating healthier, is because you're going to feel and be on that journey that's going to give you that energy and that vitality. So also, excess body fat increases the risk of depression. So it's another reason that if we're carrying a little excess body fat, it increases our risk of depression. And one way to counter that is to get on the path through the right eating plan to reduce body fat. So health should be your number one priority, and nutrition is a key. A great friend of ours is going to be speaking at our seminar in September, coming in, David Meltzer, one of the most exciting speakers out there in the industry today. David Meltzer says, when you have your health, you have 1,000 wishes. When you don't, you only have one. Isn't that true? Right? When you have your health, you can do whatever you want, but when you don't have your health, you only have one wish. You want your health. You want to be able to get it back. And that's such an important, awesome thing to think about. Why is it important to know what macronutrients are and how much of each you should have? And what do we mean by that? Macronutrients are things where you get all your energy from. We call it a kcal, or a calorie. So a macronutrient are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Now, why is it important to know about proteins, carbs, and fats, and how much you should eat of each of these macronutrients? Well, protein, fats, and carbs are what feed every tissue, organ, muscle, and cell in the body. And too much or too little of each one, too much protein or too little protein, too much fat, too little fat, can be the difference between optimal health and disease. And also, the quality of each macronutrient, the quality of the protein and the fats and the carbohydrates, can be the difference between health and disease. And you're like, wow, that's just a lot. I've got to know about carbs and proteins and fats and which quality and type. Absolutely. Why? Because it's the number one thing that affects your health. It's the thing that you do every single day of your life why not go to school for a bit to learn about them? And that's what we're going to do right now. So let me give you an example. If you have excess protein in your diet, in other words, you eat too much meat or too much any protein in your diet, then the recent published meta-analysis, and a meta-analysis is where it's not just one study, it's a study of a bunch of studies, right? So it's a whole bunch of studies, and what do all these studies come in congruent with? What is the thing that we can discern from looking at all of them, and it really gives us a lot stronger understanding of something. And what they found was if you consume too much protein, it causes a large decrease, lowers testosterone. And a lot of people think, oh, protein, I eat protein because that builds testosterone. Um, the fact is, if you have excess protein, it actually lowers testosterone. And that is one of the reasons that we don't want to have too much of something. Because if we have too much, we lower testosterone. And if we have too little, then we don't have enough protein to help build muscle and to help the body. So it's really critical that we understand when it comes to carbohydrates and proteins and fats that we want to find the right amount. That's why the right eating plan is critical. So, for example, with fats, they took a group of people and they said, here's how many calories you burn a day. So let's say that it's 2,000 calories to keep it a simple analogy. In the study, they said, okay, we determined, they did a breathalyzer test, metabolic tests, and they said, your body burns X amount of calories. So let's say it's 2,000. And then they fed one group of people excess carbohydrates above the 2,000 and saw how much of that would be stored as fat. And another group, they fed the exact same amount of calories above what they burn in a day, right? Excess with fats. And they found that the group that they fed extra fats in, even at the same caloric content as the group that took the extra carbohydrates, gained more fat. So that we know excess fats in the diet above what your body burns actually causes more fat storage than if we increased our calories with carbohydrates over what our body normally burns. So I hope that makes sense to you. What it does is it really helps set the stage to understand that it is the right amount of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and that's the key. The group that took the extra calories in as fat stored 90 to 95% of it. The group that stored or took the extra calories above what their body burns a day in carbohydrates only stored around 80% of it. So just to show that it makes a difference whether you take in carbs, proteins, and fats. Also, with fats, for example, we could have a healthy fat like an avocado, extra virgin olive oil, or we could have a fried fat like with fried chicken or fried chips, things like that. Well, the fried fats actually kill the body, it causes inflammation and disease, and the raw fats actually heal the body, gets rid of inflammation, and helps with brain balance and hormones. So the types of macronutrients, the types of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are critical to your health. That's why you want to know about different diets and eating plans and pick the right one. So there's two important principles that I'd like you to write down that are really critical. One is you want to find out the right amount of calories for your goal. You want to determine, okay, for my body, here's the amount of calories that I need to take in. And two, you need to take in the highest quality of the proteins, carbs, and fats, the macronutrients possible, and respect nature. In other words, we want to stick to the foods as close to nature as possible. The simple explanation of that is that, hey, we know that a mango or a, strawberry, that's a natural, comes from the ground, is grown. Well, red licorice, there's no red licorice plant, right? And so we just want to respect nature with our foods, and as much as we can, eat foods as they come from nature. Now, you we want to be able to decipher which eating plans are good or bad. Okay, so here we go. This is important because I don't want you to be swayed by scams and marketing and that after today. So you need a framework to determine a healthy eating plan. So number one, the eating plan has to make it easy to determine your total calories for the day. So whatever plan you go on, you get with a trainer or you go on and look at different sites. We have an app that you can download that can help you determine how many calories a day you should eat. And you want to find out how many calories you should be eating. A simple rule of thumb is you can times your weight by 10 to have an eating plan that will help you lose weight. You times it by 12, that should be about where the amount of calories a day that kind of is kind of a neutral. amount, and then higher than that, like 15 for people that want to gain weight. Now, that's not an absolute 10, 12, or 15, but it's something that I tell a lot of people that can get the majority of the population where they need to be. So, for example, if I weighed 180 pounds times 10, that's 1,800 calories a day if I'm wanting to lose weight, right? I would times 180 by 12 if I'm wanting to maintain, and by 15 if I'm wanting to gain. Simple, simple. It can get a lot more detailed than that. And we have special machinery and things like that that we use with our concierge clients, a lot of the doctors, patients, and the athletes. But that's a good rule of thumb. And now the number two, the eating plan itself does not take away a macronutrient. You've got to make sure that it doesn't take away a carb, protein, or fat completely, or it has proteins and fats above the carbohydrates. And carbohydrates should be the main actual macronutrient in your diet. And then the proteins and fats should be under that. And we'll talk about that more. And the only thing that excludes that, the only thing that breaks that rule is sometimes very special plans for conditions, for maybe cancer or things like that. We'll use different eating plans that really change up how much protein, carb, and fat, because some research, and I'll go over that with you, has been done on different eating plans that are therapeutic. They're for a condition, but for longevity and health, carbohydrates are always going to be the highest, and then proteins and fats. So that's two of the rules. That's your framework. And the third one is the plan must enable you to eat whole foods and cut out processed foods. That needs to be part of the plan. That part of it is that you're eating whole foods and working to cut out processed foods. That it's just not a free for all, eating what you want. That's not a healthy eating plan. If you just are able to, it doesn't matter, just get your calories in. So out of all the eating plans in the world, which one is best for optimal health? Is it the carnivore diet? Is it the keto diet? Is the Atkins diet? Is it paleo? Is it the Mediterranean diet? Plant-based diet, intermittent fasting. How about that one? That's a big one nowadays. Flexitarian. Some of you might not have heard of flexitarian diet. That's an interesting one we'll talk about. Low-fat diets, or even vegan. So let's just jump into them, okay? And so the first one are more of the high-protein diets. And if any of you are over the age of 40, you've heard of Atkins. Atkins is the original high-protein diet. It's a low-carbohydrate fat diet devised by Dr. Robert Atkins. I've spoke on stage, I don't know if the words with him, a panel arguing, the different diets and what's healthiest. And I was not on the Atkins side, and he was teaching, that. And so we spoke together before he passed away. And it came real popular in the early 2000s because of his book that became one of the top sellers in history. And at one time, close to 1 in 10, 1 in 11 North American adults claimed to be following the Atkins diet. But after his death, he actually passed away due to heart disease, believe it or not. And the company had filed for bankruptcy. But so it's kind of not been as popular as much anymore because of that. But there's still people that still follow it. But you'll see that most diets are, they'll come back, but they'll come back with a different name. But the original high protein, low carb diet was called Atkins. And it promotes the consumption of meat, cheese, eggs, and other high fat foods like butter, mayonnaise, sour cream in unlimited amounts, whilst bread, cereal, pasta, and other carbohydrates are completely forbidden. And that's the Atkins diet. Now, in 2000 Journal of American College of Nutrition, they conducted this study because they didn't talk about the type of fats, it's just high fat in the diet, that the damage that it caused the body, and you shift your pathway for energy production, and it actually causes a lot more stress. We call it oxidative stress or free radical damage on the body, and it really is not the healthiest way to go. And nowadays there's a diet called the carnivore diet that is a zero carb diet that cuts out carbohydrates. It's a high protein fat. It is quite popular right now, and it's where people just eat meat, eggs, and dairy. It's associated with a lot of claims, but if you look at the research, there's a lot of problems with this diet and can actually increase a lot of chronic diseases. And it's one of those things that I want to put the studies on here also, that it's not just an opinion, that you have the research to show that following the carnivore diet, even though it's the latest fad, over time can actually be damaging the body. And what does it look like? It looks like 70% of your daily intake is fats, 25% protein, and 5% carbohydrates. So it's extremely high fat. decent amount of protein and very, very low carbohydrate. And it forces your body to use a different pathway of energy. And again, there are immediate benefits from going on a very high fat type diet. And sometimes the benefits are because you've cut out some processed foods, if maybe you take in healthier fats, but your body is transitioning and switching over to a different source of energy. It's switching over from using carbohydrates as energy, glucose to fatty acids. And once you get through and we'll talk a little bit more about the flu, they call it a keto flu, but their body transitioning to a different source, it can create this tremendous amount of energy for a while, and it can cause some weight loss immediately. But long term, the research is very clear, and I know people argue it. That's why I shared with you some of the studies that are on there. You can go back and replay this, and you can look up a lot of those studies showing the damaging effects of the carnivore diet. So basically, you're using a lot of butter, fat tallow, what's called ghee, and seasonings are only part of the diet, but they do help. I'm a big fan of like a lot of the seasonings, but anything that's not animal based is off the table, right? And so it's a very interesting eating plan. And the carnivore diet definitely lowers testosterone levels. And this is a research study. It was done in 2022 showing, as I mentioned earlier, that your testosterone levels, men and women, are lowered when you're on a carnivore diet. That's why, honestly, if you want to, you take a look at people like Liver King and some of these others. That's why we knew they were on steroids. And they would say, I'm not on steroids, I'm not on steroids. And we're like, those of us that are in the know, like, it's impossible, because you actually lower testosterone dramatically if you're on an extremely high protein diet like carnivore. And they're on eating these meats and like, I've got big muscles. You're taking steroids. Then he finally admitted he was on steroids, went off steroids, and now back on again, because there's no way you can eat that amount of protein and not have higher amounts of carbohydrates in your diet and have high testosterone. It's impossible. And it also increases the risk of colon cancer, and that because of processed meats. Now, there is an ability to eat meats and not be processed meats that doesn't raise the risk of colon cancer as much. But if you're eating processed meats, it's an absolute. And what we look at in the blood work, we've done thousands of people's blood work over the years. I probably look, honestly, at least at 1,000 a year copies. I look at least 2 or 3 every single day, if not more, of doctors' patients, of some of our athletes and people. And we have markers that we look at, and one of them is called C-reactive protein, and it's a marker of inflammation. And it's really easy to tell people that are on very high protein, especially if they don't care about the type of protein. They're just eating all kinds of meats and not looking at the type. And if they're, raised properly, if they're organic, and they're just eating that with a lot of fats in the diet that are very unhealthy, just a lot of fried foods, the inflammatory markers in the blood go up, and it's very easy to see this. So who should eat the carnivore diet? Really no one long term. Even the main proponents of the carnivore diet, Joe Rogan, Paul Saladino, some of these that were heading up the cause, quit because they're like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. Everyone should do it." But then they don't do it anymore because it over time lowers testosterone, and it can provide some quick reactions in the body, mainly from water being reduced in that, or if your calories aren't as high as, you're consuming less calories on the day than your body burns, you might lose some weight. But again, over time, it's not going to be healthy. So let's jump to the next one, which is the keto diet. And the ketogenic diet is somewhat the same, but yet it's a high fat, adequate protein, low carbohydrate diet. And there are a lot of companies and programs out there teaching keto. And I'm going to mention some benefit about it in a minute. But again, it's very low carbohydrates, 5%, 60% fat, around 35% protein. You can see a lot of the similarities to the carnivore diet, right? So same concept. You're trying to switch your body over from burning glucose to now burning fatty acids as energy. And that state is called ketosis. Now, there are benefits to eating a keto diet in the case of seizures, epileptic seizures, things like that, that if you follow a keto diet. And there's also some benefit to a plant-based keto diet for cancer, that one of our top PhDs that works with us, that'll be speaking again September at the Super Seminar in Las Vegas, September 26th or 29th. He's going to be talking about cancer and the research showing that a plant-based keto diet for cancer is extremely promising. for people. So there are times that we'll use a keto diet, but it's for very specific conditions in the body, like epilepsy and that. And it's not something that we recommend people stay on long term for just health. Now, your body forms these things called ketone bodies, and that's when you have been following this plan for a while. Your body's switching over from glucose metabolism to fatty acid, and you go to what's called the keto flu. And what happens when you take in less than 50 grams of carbohydrates a day and your body's switching over to this different form of energy, then your body, as it switches, you go through this flu state. You go through this feeling terrible state. And so people will take things called ketones, and it helps them get past that flu state quicker. So absolutely that does work. But if you're type 1 diabetic, ketoacidosis, where your body starts forming additional acids, can be fatal if untreated. Your body will automatically, when you're switching over from glucose metabolism to fatty acid metabolism, you'll lose a lot of water. So you got to be very careful to not dehydrate in the body. A lot of people aren't getting benefit when they're just losing water, and it can cause some major stomach issues. So people need to be on an outlook for it. And if people are prone to kidney stones, I never recommend the keto diet because the incidence of kidney stones on the keto diet is much higher, much higher. We have had some athletes. I personally coached some very high level world champion athletes that went on keto because people convinced them or companies paid them to want to be an athlete for them and thought they were doing better. But guess what? Every single one of them have switched away from keto when they realized when it came to the data, they weren't performing better. And they might have for like the first month or so, and then it actually got worse. And one of them is actually a world champion natural bodybuilder that went through a complete season, thought he was doing better, really promoting it heavily, and then found out when it came time for the Natural Olympia that he did not show up like he had before and lost big time, and then switched back to the eating plan that we'll be mentioning and won the next year. And we've had that happen in a lot of different sports. So keto flu is one of the things that when your body's transitioning, there's some other side effects to it. Um, you can usually tell people that are on a very serious keto diet because of their breath, and it really has, you can smell it, and they'll usually have this metallic type taste in their mouth. So who could or should do keto? Well, it's people where there might be some mental health concerns, have shown benefit to doing keto for a while. Again, people who suffer from seizures and with cancer, if done on a plant-based keto, which is a whole other ballgame. But our health professionals, if you want to know about that, we have any health professional that's associated with optimal health systems can help you with eating plan if there's a specific condition like that, and it gets approved by who your other physician is that's working with you on that condition. And if you don't have a health professional, get hold of the office and we'll find one near you. So this is how a ketogenic diet can affect cancer development. And it's just the fact that it starves the cells because cancer cells do thrive on glucose. So now let's keep going and talk about the paleo diet, the Paleolithic diet. And, same thing more as like the caveman diet. And I want to really impress upon you because you're going to find people that say, man, I've had great results on the carnivore, on Atkins diet, paleo diet. Well, one of the things is that the Stone Age diet and the paleo, the caveman, and all these things, really, many of them are healthier than the standard American diet, where we're on extremely high levels of processed food and that. And so people are getting some benefit. And so they can use some of these diets once in a while as a transitional phase, but they should only be transitional to the eating plan that will show you the research shows is the healthiest way to go. So a paleo diet is 25% carbs, 25 protein, 50 fat. So most of these diets we're talking about right now are much either higher fat or higher protein, and the carbs being less. And if you remember back, one of the framework positions when you're looking for the right healthy eating plan is that your carbohydrate should always be higher than your proteins and fats. And if it isn't, then you need to understand that you probably have a plan that maybe should just be used for very specific reasons, and that's it. And I want to make a comment with Atkins. We know some of the history, like when he fell and hit his head and that, And one of the big arguments was that, he didn't die from heart disease, he died from slipping. But then it came out what his numbers were, and whether he had a heart attack and slipped and fell, or he just had heart disease because of the blood work in that was found out afterwards. I don't want to make a big stink about that, because truly, Dr. Atkins himself, if you read his last book, he came out and said, you shouldn't stick to an Atkins diet like for a lifetime. He went against his original book. And in his last book, you can read where he says, yes, you absolutely need to add carbohydrates back to your diet for longevity. So just in his own words, I think that kind of helps with that, so that we're not speaking anything that, might be contradictory to what other people's beliefs are. So this diet avoids food processing, and typically, includes some fruits, nuts, roots, meat, excludes dairy products, grains, sugar, legumes, processed oils, things like that. Historians can trace, the ideas behind this diet, the paleo diet, that was advocated in the 19th century, in the 70s, by especially Walter Vogelin. He popularized this meat-centric Stone Age diet, and there were some really popular books on the paleo diet. Now, we have some pretty good history on that, and talking about where it came from, and that, hey, because we came from caveman, we should eat like them. That's the paleo concept, right? Well, that's all good and fine until 2003. Now, what happened in 2003, a project that started in 1990 came about, and it's when we were able to sequence the human genome. So all those companies now, when you do the DNA testing and that, the reason you can do that is because we sequenced the human genome. We were able to find out, and you're able to do the DNA testing, find out who your mom and your dad is, and your ancestors, and where you're from, and all that stuff. And when that came out, we were able to see that in all reality, that the paleo diet didn't make sense, that humans evolved rapidly in response to a changing diet, and undermines the core premise of the Paleolithic diet. The human digestion system, just the digesting of food, remained essentially unchanged, but our body, evolves rapidly in response to a changing diet. What does that mean? Is that different people that live in different parts of the world, and that their body changed based on where they're living and the foods that they were raised on, and that we all shouldn't go back to a caveman diet and say that's the healthiest thing for us. Once we sequenced the human genome, we really understood that at a very high level. So people that are maybe having a hard time to getting away from the standard American diet, you're having a hard time getting away from the processed foods and the heavy bakery type processed pastries and things like that. You need a jump start. Some people will do a paleo type diet for a while, but again, it should be a short time, 60, 90 days, and maybe it's a way to jumpstart you having a very hardcore plan that doesn't involve any processed foods, because you're on the paleo diet. It's a way for you to get going. That's a great way. It's a great way to look at it, and that can help you. But again, it shouldn't be long term, as the research shows. The next eating plan is called the Mediterranean plan. And the Mediterranean diet is inspired by the eating habits of people in southern Spain, Italy, and Crete, and formulated in the early 1960s. And so this diet actually has some phenomenal research on it. A lot of different organizations have done studies on the Mediterranean diet, from the Mayo Clinic, American Medical Association, American Dietetic Association, American College of Nutrition, and had some extremely beneficial benefits from the Mediterranean diet. And that's a plant-based diet mainly that focuses on unprocessed carbohydrates, unprocessed cereals, a lot of legumes, vegetables, and fruits. It does include more of a moderate amount consumption of fish and dairy products, mostly fresh, raw type cheeses and yogurts, and a low amount of red meat. Olive oil has been studied as a potential major benefiting factor for the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterranean diet, there was a 2017 peer-reviewed study that showed that the Mediterranean diet lowers the risk of heart disease and early death. And it can help with weight loss, reducing body fat, obesity. It's one of the 3 healthy diets recommended in the guidelines based on data. In other words, the data of the healthiest people in the world. It was one of the top eating plans. So I'm a fan of the Mediterranean diet. I'm a fan of it because of the research. that if you look at the healthiest people, from the blood work through longevity to the amount of disease and what age different disease sets in, the Mediterranean diet really performs extremely well. And so for people that like the taste of, some fats in their diet, it's really not a bad way to go. And this is kind of the plate of Mediterranean diet, 35%, but they're whole grains. They're not white flour grains. There is very low, non-GMO type grains in a true Mediterranean diet. I know it's a little tougher in America to get hold of those types of grains. About 10% olive oil. So that's a lot of the percent of the entire diet is olive oil. And then more of the fish, seafood, chicken, poultry, and their dairy foods in that are more of a raw state, 30% vegetables and fruits, and about 5% meats or sweets. So I'm a big fan of the Mediterranean diet based on the research, and it's very easy to look at Mediterranean meals and Mediterranean diets. You can Google it. I definitely would give it 2 thumbs up on the Mediterranean diet. Now, how about vegan diets? Veganism is where you're abstaining from the use of animal products. Real vegans, you're abstaining from the use of animal products in your entire life, right? But we're talking right now in the diet. And it's an associated philosophy that rejects the commodity status of animals. And a person, that practices is called a vegan. And the macros on are interesting. It can be a little bit different and give a little bit wider range, but it's around 50 carbs, 25 protein, 25 fat, which really isn't a bad. In fact, it's a very good balance of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And there's a lot of research long-term showing some major benefits, because if you think about it, your vegan diet, you're getting away from a lot of the processed foods, right? And so just doing that, you're going to get a tremendous benefit. So there's a lot of people that follow a vegan diet because of religious beliefs, also their beliefs mainly towards animals. People that have a hard time digesting meat proteins, people that get gout real easily have had some tremendous success with switching over to a vegan diet. People that want a fast way to lower inflammation in the body. They might have a condition that come up that they need to lower inflammation very quickly. Just following a vegan diet is a great way to do that. The main concern is that in vegan diets, a lot of times people eat a lot of processed foods in the vegan diet. Well, it's just not animal-based, so I can have it. And you have all of these different processed fake meats and things like that, and it's called vegan. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy if it's vegan. And that's one thing that I've noticed now, that there's a lot of unhealthy vegans running around because they're not taking a look at it and obeying the vegan rules from just obeying the laws of nature. They're just having, oh, it's not animal based, I'm going to eat it. And there's a lot of processing, a lot of processed foods. I was just at the world's largest nutrition conference, and I'd say half of the vegan booths there, like, these products are vegan, and again, they were terrible for you because they were so processed. And so that's one of the problems with the vegan diet. And you do need to be committed to knowing how you're getting your proteins on a vegan plan. You've got to make sure that you're eating different types of vegetable proteins to be able to keep that balance. So it is a commitment. So there's great research on a vegan lifestyle, but it's a major commitment to follow it. And it is a great way to get going, especially if you need this jump start in the body. Now let's jump to another called plant-based. Now, just for the record, I am a plant-based, or what's called, I'll share with you, flexitarian follower, and I am because of the research. I've been this way and believe this for over 30 years. And the research keeps coming out more and more and more towards a plant-based diet. I've never seen one bit of research that shows anything negative toward a plant-based diet. And that's a diet that consists mainly of plant-based foods, and they encompass a wide range of dietary patterns and low amounts of animal products. So you don't get rid of, it's not vegan, it's plant-based. So you just don't eat meat a lot, okay? But you eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, a lot of true whole grains. Again, not processed grains, not processed white flour, pastry type stuff. Legumes, beans, nuts, and seeds. And so it's not vegan because you do have some meat, but it's a very low consumption. You eat meat sparingly. It's about 60 carb, 20 protein, 20 fat. The research on the plant-based or flexitarian diet, they're basically the same. Flexitarian diet, it's a semi-vegetarian diet. It's centered around plant foods, and you have an occasional inclusion of meat. So a flexitarian might eat meat only some days of the week, And so I think that whether you call it a plant-based diet or flexitarian, it's basically the same thing. So I would be a flexitarian or a plant-based diet follower, mainly again because the research is extremely, extremely strong towards this eating plan. And it's based on a couple of things. One is there's a book called The Blue Zones. People like it, might hate it. It stemmed a lot of controversy. But if you look at the research in this and you do your own research on it, you're going to see that there are places around the world that people live to a very old age and are very healthy. And these centers, we call them centenarian centers. It's kind of funny how come they call them blue zones, because they drew a blue dot on the map. But these centenarian blue zone centers around the world, this person, Dan Butner, did the study and said, what is the common denominator with all these people? I personally spent 3 years studying the Hunzas and a lot of these places down Okinawa, other places, and pouring through the research, the China study, the Great Nurse research study that was done, and came to the exact same conclusion on my own, that the healthiest people in the world, the people that live the longest with the greatest level of health, eat a plant-based or flexitarian diet. They eat throughout the day. It's balanced, and it has to do with the active lifestyle and also a community of people of love. And that is the ultimate plan for health. Also, not just for longevity based on the hundreds and hundreds of years of research that we have on the healthiest people on the planet, but also based on the greatest natural athletes. We're talking the Olympic athletes from all sports, natural bodybuilding. When you're taking the most elite natural athletes, fully drug tested athletes, and you compare their eating plan, the top natural athletes on the planet, to the people that live the longest, guess what? It's identical. They're eating a plant-based diet. The only difference is sometimes the natural athletes will consume more protein than those that are eating just meat sparingly. And in my opinion, that's not needed, but it's especially in the bodybuilding world, they consume a lot of protein. But there's a lot of natural Olympic athletes that have found that too much protein, because it lowers testosterone, is not the way to go. So I'll come back to that. But let's talk about what many times is the elephant in the room, and that's intermittent fasting. Because I personally know of a lot of people that have got great benefit from intermittent fasting. And so, like, hey, intermittent fasting is the way to go. And intermittent fasting is where you have a time frame that you eat, so that you will go, to make it simple for those who aren't familiar with intermittent fasting, you might not eat until 2 in the afternoon and eat from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. You have this window of time, a 5-2 diet or something like that. And there's many different ones. But basically, if you just go for a long period of time without eating, and then you eat within a short window, whether it's a 3-hour window, a 5-hour window, a 1-hour window, you get all your food in. That's intermittent fasting. Now, because with intermittent fasting, it's much easier to not eat over your caloric level. So how many calories a day your body burns, because it's easier to not eat over that, because you're only eating within a certain window. People get tremendous benefits a lot of times on intermittent fasting because they lose a lot of weight, because for some people, it's the only way they can control their eating, is they're like, I'm only going to eat between these hours, and that's it. And so because of that, they're not consuming excess calories above what their body burns in a day. Does that make sense? And so they're getting great results. Now, if the only way you can control the amount of calories you're eating a day is through intermittent fasting, that's a great start, but it's a start. It's not what you should do long term. I know that people will want to argue with this, but the research on this is extremely strong. So I believe intermittent fasting is a great starter type eating plan for a lot of people as they're working to, get off of eating too many calories a day. One of the problems with intermittent fasting is so many people will do it and they'll eat whatever they want during that window and they say it's okay. It's not. As I mentioned at first, the processing of the foods causes damage at a greater amount than just the calories. So we can have the same amount of calories from extremely processed food, potato chips and pastries or fried foods. You have the same amount of calories from those versus healthier foods like chicken breast and rice and vegetables, and you're going to gain more weight, and you're going to cause more disease from the processed foods, even at the same caloric content. And the research backs that up. I'll show some of those studies here. So intermittent fasting, usually about 40 carb, 30 protein, 30 fat, but I want to be very open that that's, man, I've seen it all over the place because people will just gorge themselves during that time frame that they're doing their window of eating opportunity. And so again, I'm not saying that you should never do intermittent fasting. What I'm telling you is for some people, it can be a great segue into a plant-based eating plan or flexitarian where you're eating breakfast, you're eating lunch, you're eating dinner, you're having some healthy snacks. That is the ultimate eating plan. So it involves cycles of eating and fasting periods. Okay. Now, for some, it can improve the insulin sensitivity and the weight loss, like I mentioned. A study published in the Journal of Obesity Reviews reported that intermittent fasting also, though, can lead to muscle loss, especially combined with calorie restriction. And so what they found is that people are just eating during this window of time that is causing muscle loss because they're going catabolic in the other time. They're doing it daily. You're actually better off doing a true fast. You're better off doing a 24, a 48, or a 72-hour fast, and your body releases because you're doing a fast longer than 24 hours and not just, a 16 hour time frame, and that because you're going over 24 hours, your body will release growth hormone and it actually keeps you anabolic. So you can fast for 3 days and stay anabolic. In other words, retain your muscle a lot better than if you did intermittent fasting. And again, the research pulls it up. Tinsley and Bounty did this study that showed people on intermittent fasting actually lost muscle, and people that would every month or two go on a 2 or 3 day fast actually didn't lose muscle because their body is producing growth hormone because they're on a true fast, not a 16 hours here, 12 hours there, 18 hours here type fasting scenario. So study that just came out this year, 2024 study, over 20,000 adults in the United States found that those who followed an 8-hour time restricted eating schedule had a 91% higher risk of death from cardiovascular disease than those who ate within a 12 or 16-hour period. In other words, at normal time of when you're usually awake. And this study is interesting because we're still waiting on the final data from it, to be fair. This is just the initial report, and I'm really excited to see the rest of the data. But the fact that we know these numbers from it so far give us an understanding that the initial benefits of intermittent fasting actually go away. And that's why you see most intermittent fasters don't lift weights after a while. They're losing muscle, and most of them lose the desire to even lift weights. So am I talking about people that maybe, skip breakfast and eat like 10 in the morning and then finish eating through the day, or, something like that? No, I'm talking about true intermittent fasting where you take these windows of time and you're just eating in a short window of time through the day, the 2-hour time frame or 4-hour time frame. That's the intermittent fasting I'm talking about. So this new study, I know that a lot of intermittent fasters are coming out, freaking out on this study. You know what? For just the balance of the conversation today, let's see when the rest of the data from the study comes out, and then there might be some other things that we're not seeing that are beneficial in the intermittent fasting lifestyle. But right now, long term, research shows that it's not the way to go. And there's another study that really showed this, and that people are having. This is some of the reports from that study showing a 91% increased risk of cardiovascular disease. So people who have proven they can't control the amount of food they eat in a day, start off with intermittent fasting sometimes. If you don't have a coach that's helping you and to hold accountable, that might be the way to go for a short period of time. And it's very important, though, that you need to make sure the total amount of calories you do eat during that window doesn't go over the amount that, again, whether you times your weight times 10 to lose weight, 12 to be neutral, or 15 to gain weight, you don't go over those, and that you're trying to eat as many non-processed foods as possible. Okay. How about the low-fat diet? Now, a low-fat diet's interesting because you think it sounds a lot like the flexitarian or the plant-based diet, but it really isn't. A low-fat diet is what happened in the 80s and that 90s, and we found out that if people just went low-fat, even though they did get some benefit by cutting back their fat in their diet, that they were increasing their sugars in their diet, and so that caused even more of a problem. So eating a lower fat really isn't beneficial as much as it could be if you also made sure you didn't consume extra sugar. But what happened was they took fat out of all the foods and added in sugar, and that caused more of a problem. And now people say low fat diets are bad for you. They are low fat diets are bad for you, but you should have about 20-25% fat in the diet. And it should be healthy fats though, but you shouldn't replace those fats with sugar. And that's what most products that say they're low fat are. I saw a Hershey's bar the other day that said low fat on it. So, that craze really caused a problem and caused a higher risk of diabetes and heart disease, not because low fat isn't healthy, it's because it got replaced with sugars. So the best diet, there's two winners. The first is any eating plan that's healthier than the standard American diet, not Stone Age diet, the standard American diet, and the plant-based flexitarian diet with the right amount of calories spread throughout the day is the ultimate answer. So basically, any diet that's not the standard American diet is going to be a better choice. But the ultimate choice is to use a plant-based or flexitarian diet, and you're eating healthy throughout the day. So why is it the best choice? Research has consistently shown the benefits of a plant-based, limited meat consumption diet on health and longevity. They did a comprehensive review published in the Journal of American College of Cardiology, found that plant-based diets associated with reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and there was an extremely long-term study done in JAMA that showed that individuals adhering to a plant-based diet had a lower risk of all-cause mortality compared to those consuming high protein diets, high fat diets. In other words, your risk of every single possibility of a disease that would take your life early, you have a lower risk because when you're on a plant-based, lower meat or protein diet. And now I want to give a little caveat to that because I did have a client that owns a company that sells organic, pasture-raised, grass-fed, completely antibiotic-free meat. And in doing his blood work and people's blood works that do eat their meat 100% unprocessed, I was able to see that they were able to take in more of the meats than most people and still retain a very healthy blood work level as from the cellular level, even their C-reactive protein levels, liver enzymes, kidney, everything were really good. So I think a lot of it comes back down to just stay away from processed foods, whether it's meat or not, but you don't want to overdo it on the proteins because it does lower, again, your testosterone level. So in conclusion, plant-based diet or flexitarian diet is the way to go, especially one that you're watching the foods and make sure they're extremely low processed foods, that they are whole foods from nature, and you don't take in the calories above what your body needs. So you need nature's plan. You need your mindset being correct, understanding the right eating plan. Thank you again for joining us today. The right nutrition, and we just talked about know your calories, be chemical aware, how to read labels, get the right carb, protein, and fat ratios in your diet, get your exercise each day, take the right amount of supplements. This webinar is not about supplements. We'll do another one here in the future talking about the research on supplements and what you need and the best way to find out what you need. But you need to make sure you're taking core nutrients in supplement-wise because we don't have control over the process of raising our foods, and a lot of them are very deficient, even when we're just whole foods. So we know we need to read labels. Basically, the simple answer today, we'll do another webinar on reading labels. And I encourage you again to come to our super seminar. You're going to have some phenomenal speakers give you some in-depth training on that. But the lower amount of ingredients, the better. So if you have a choice between two, let's say you're going to have a protein bar or a carb, a grain bar, the one that has the least amount of ingredients and the lowest amount of sugar is usually the best way to go to keep it simple for the moment. So the most important principles: eat foods as close to nature as possible, ensure the nutrients from the foods are delivered to the cells, digest your food. And heavily processed foods cause overeating, and weight gain. I mentioned earlier I'd show some of the studies, and this is one of the studies that show that the same amount of processed food versus whole foods, the processed food diets increased the risk of cardiovascular disease. It increased the amount of obesity, even with the same caloric intake. And so people that consume more than 4 servings a day of processed food, the chips, the candies, the pastries, things like that, had every additional serving caused the mortality increased risk by 18% over 4 servings a day. That is crazy amount of increased risk of dying early because of just eating processed foods. Okay. So I think it's important to understand that. The one of the questions that came out is that low carbs can affect thyroid function, and how do you get enough B12 if you're on a vegan or a plant-based diet? The fact of the matter is it is tough to be on a true vegan diet and get enough B12. You can do it, but you should take the supplements like methyl B or do your blood work is my best recommendation to find out your nutrient deficiencies. I think everyone should do that because even if we're all on a flexitarian plant-based diet, depending on where you're at in the nation and where you're getting your foods from, will determine the deficiencies of certain vitamins in the foods. So I'm a huge fan of doing your blood work at least once every 6 months, and then eating your supplements based on that blood work. So this is just some more studies showing that the importance of reducing sugar in your diet and that it would lower the risk of cardiovascular deaths dramatically if we just ate less sugar and ate less processed foods. And so it's very important to be able to understand this factor. And you want to make sure your nutrients are delivered to the cell. So I'm a big fan of enzymes. Enzymes are what are in food that help digest your food. And the length of your life is really dependent on your enzyme reserves. Enzymes are what digest food in the body. And when you don't digest your food, it causes disease. So these are raw foods, and you see the electricity and the energy from them. And then on the right is cooked cabbage. On the left there is raw cabbage. Enzymes are what are in food to help digest the food. Here's a person's energy levels on the right, eating a plant-based diet versus someone that eats a processed food diet. And so you can really see the difference. People that eat less processed food deliver more nutrients to the body, live a healthier life. Some of the greats like Dr. Mark Harris, PhD, Dr. John Brimhall, one of the great godfathers of chiropractic. Some of our top clients, Russell Brunson, Ben Hardy, some of the Ben Hardy going to be speaking in September. Eating less processed food, deliver more nutrients, and my work for years with teams in the NBA. They all, whether it's executives, moms and dads, people in the workforce, professional athletes, if you eat less processed foods and digest your food, take your enzymes when you eat cooked food, eat more whole foods and deliver them to the cell level, you have higher levels of energy and you deliver more nutrients. And we have research with thousands of people. So now that you've learned about what nutrition plan you should follow, and I hope that this has given you some good information today that will help you. What now? Well, I'm going to end with helping you learn how to supercharge your health. And I'm going to teach you the number one success technique by the pros. And what I mean by the number one success technique by the pros is I've been very blessed to be able to work with some of the wealthiest people on the planet, if you want to call that success, not necessarily success, but successful in that arena. People that have had the most successful families, people that are the top athletes in the world, like I mentioned, world champion athletes, Olympic, NBA, other sports. And what's interesting is that when you ask them, and I always take I have this unique life to be able to be around a lot of these people. So I always ask a lot of questions. I was on one last night with one of these. I'm like, I got a question for you. And they're like, I know you do. What is it? And so I'll ask questions. And one of them is, how do you just have success in any area? How do you have ultimate success, spirituality and business, making money and health? How do you do it? What's your number one thing? Here's the number one success technique spoken by the most successful people in any arena that I've ever met. Okay. Number one thing, get in rooms with the most knowledgeable people and successful people in the field you want to excel in. That's it. Number one. Isn't that crazy? The most important thing you can do in this topic today is health, right? Through nutrition. How can you improve your health the most, learn the most about nutrition and the other things to improve your health, right? The right nutrients, the things to take in different conditions, the lifestyle, what's to do with the water and the chemicals and the phthalates and the plastics, how much exercise should I do? What is the truth about vitamins in that? What form should I take? If any of these questions are in your mind, what diet should I follow? I want more information on this. I need more help. What do? Get in a room with the most knowledgeable and successful people in the field that you want to excel in. I'm going to end with sharing with you a way to do that. We have created what will become the world's largest holistic health event there is. And the reason we did is I've raised my children. We've gone to every seminar you can think of. We've gone to the Olympia, to the Arnold Classic, to the Dave Asprey events, the biohacking events, and all these things. And they're great, great rooms to be in. But in all those rooms, you have to be somewhat careful, because in the Olympia rooms and that, then you can tell there's people promoting things like steroids. When you go to some of these heavy duty biohacking events, they're doing a lot of this, pushing microdosing, the shrooms and the LSD and all that. And a lot of them get out there like crazy. And I wanted to say, man, here's a place that people can come, get taught the highest levels of energy of holistic nutrition, exercise, supplementation, hear from the experts and be able to help their life the most. And so we created what we call the super seminar to unlock your health potential naturally. Now, our company, Optimal Health Systems, with the greats of Dr. Brett Brimhall, John Brimhall, Dr. Harris, Dr. Porter, a lot of these great doctors, we teach seminars to health professionals. We've done it for decades, and I feel the best in the world at teaching health professionals. But for the first time ever, we've opened up our largest seminar of the year, what's called our super seminar, to the public and to patients also. And it's coming up September 26th to the 29th in Las Vegas. The number one success technique by the most successful people in the world is to get in rooms with people that are successful in the area you want to learn. If you want to be around the healthiest people on the planet, the people that teach health to the top doctors and athletes in the nation, you want to be in this room. Thursday starting at noon till Sunday afternoon in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Rio. You don't have to even be on the strip. It's outside the strip. And it is going to be the greatest single holistic natural event ever put on. One section is going to be for the doctors. There's going to be times that the public and the doctors will be in the same room, and times that just the public will be in the room, taught by these same great professionals, but taught in a way that you can understand and take it home and make application. So let me introduce you to some of the people that are there. Some of the people there are not just a lot of the great doctors like the Brimhalls and the Harris and the Porters and them teaching. It's also our mentors. And so the people that we get coached by, we've invited to come speak also to you. So the great Ben Hardy, I think the greatest is clinical psychologist alive today, one that's transformed my life, my wife's life, many people's lives, wrote the book, The Gap in the Gain, Who Not How, 10X is Easier Than 2X. He's going to be keynoting, and he follows this program. In fact, he's on it right now in a big way to get ready for September. David Meltzer's been following this program and sharing his information with the world. His goal is to have 1 billion people teach gratefulness and help be happier. And he's phenomenal speaker. He's going to be keynoting. Forrest Griffin, UFC Hall of Famer, one of the most witty people I've ever met in my life. 3-time Olympian gold medalist, LaShawn Merritt, Tom Brady's trainer, Alex Guerrero, and as I mentioned, some of the greatest health coaches and in shape, healthiest people on the planet are going to be talking, from brain health, from nutrition, through exercise, through supplementation. And you're going to be able to hear from them all weekend, be with the health professionals for part of it, be with yourself and a lot of the public. You're going to get the vibration and the feeling there that is unheard of. So I challenge each of you to take the information from today, apply it in your life, but then get in the room. Right now, to me, it's a non-negotiable. You need to get in the room September 26th through 29th. The QR code's here, scan it. Here's what we've done. We made it extremely affordable. It's only $99 for the public to come. $99. Now, the seminar that we just went to a few weeks ago, the public's cost was $700, and they didn't have even close to this lineup. We're going to have a huge expo area with all kinds of products and gadgets and gizmos for you to look at and have fun with, to maybe incorporate if you choose in your life to improve your health. BrainTap's going to be there. Zyto's going to be there. We're going to have booths there. It's going to be phenomenal. There'll be over 60 booths there. We're going to have the seminars for you. And then at the same time, in a separate room, is going to be the largest natural bodybuilding show for the United States that we have. You don't have to be a part of it, but you're welcome to be a part of it, to go in and see some of the greatest natural athletes if you choose. My wife Hillary will be defending her crown as the figure champion. A lot of great natural drug tested athletes are going to be there at the same time. And so you can, if when you choose, like you can go to the expo, you can hear a talk, you can check out the bodybuilding show. You have so much going on that you can do all weekend. Please, please come to this. I have people that have never heard me speak, family members that have never watched my wife compete, never been to a seminar before in 30 years. They're coming. They're coming to this event. And I challenge all of you to come to the super seminar. You signed up now. The tickets again are $99 for the public, doctors, and for the public that want premium admission, it's $250 for all 4 days. And there's a VIP admission. It's not for everyone. It is limited. So if you do want it, you want to get on it. The VIP is where you actually get to be in photo ops with the speakers. You're going to be able to have a special meal with the speakers, with the doctors, with the keynote speakers. You get a special evening with them also, and you get to sit up front. So it's really, really cool. But again, it's not needed. You can pay $99 and have a beautiful, phenomenal weekend. And it comes with that is you're going to get a link to get very special rates at the Rio Hotel in their brand new remodeled rooms. So the only way to guarantee the remodeled rooms is to click on the link and get your room reservation through our link. Is we've been guaranteed the room rate and the remodeled beautiful rooms at the Rio. So scan the code, come. I can't express to you enough the importance of getting in rooms. The greatest things that have ever happened in my life, ever, have come from me being in rooms, networking with people at a higher frequency and vibration, what I wanted to achieve, and coming out of there with a plan and an energy and a commitment to take my health to the next level, my business to the next level, my family health to the next level. And that's the way to improve your health, is to get in the rooms. So it will be the greatest natural event, fitness event, meaning mindset, focus, intense thought, nutrition, exercise, and supplementation event of the year. I challenge you to come to do that, please, and to learn from the top professionals. Man, I could go through each speaker, and each speaker by themselves is enough reason to come. So please check it out. You can go on the site, scan the QR code, and read about some of the speakers. So thank you for being on. I've noticed that every single one of you stayed on this whole time. Thank you so much. So what you want to do is in the chat, and if you go to the chat right now, it'll say, here's the link to get your free gift. You'll click on that link. So everyone go into the chat, webinar chat on the Zoom, and click on that link. And then in that link, you're going to put the code WEBGIFT, WEBGIFT, WEBGIFT. And if you do that, guess what? We're going to send you a free bottle of Digestamil and a pouch, free. You're going to get it. So you're going to get almost a $40 value just for being on the seminar webinar today, because you care enough to look and learn about nutrition, the most important thing you can do to improve your health. We wanted to show how much that means to us. And so there's no catch. Just do that and you get your free bottle. Click on the link and do that. And if you actually miss it or have an issue with it, call 1-800-890-4547. Optimal Health Systems number. You can go on the website, optimalhealthsystems.com. Get a hold of us. We'll make sure you get it if you have a problem with that link or missed part of that. Okay. I'm going to close with this. The more you crave something, the more your cells vibrate that frequency into reality. Crave optimal health. Crave being here for your children, your grandchildren. Crave having higher levels of energy and being present to vitality. I'm going to enjoy these last few hours here at Universal Studios, and I'm going to be more present because of my health, because of my nutrition, and it's going to create memories and experiences that I'll have for a lifetime. You want to have that every day with your family, your friends, your coworkers. Crave that. Your cells will vibrate that frequency. And what will happen is you'll click the link and come to the super seminar, because you want to get in the rooms. You'll want to get in the room with the healthiest people, the people that know the most, that have dedicated their life to learn on these subjects, to teach you about how to reach optimal health. Thank you so much for your time. We love each of you. We look forward to seeing you. I spoke just with a lot of the speakers in the last week, Dr. Brimhall, Brett Brimhall, John Brimhall, Dr. Harris, Ben Hardy, spoke with David Meltzer just about an hour ago, and they're all looking forward so much to meeting you at the Super Seminar, September 26th through 29th. in Las Vegas at the Rio. Please click on that link. We look forward to seeing you there. I hope this information that we shared with you has been beneficial, that you know what eating plan you should be following, and you make some decisions today to start eating healthier so that you can reach optimal health. Remember, keep chewing. Thanks, guys.